Tonight, it's hitting the fan. Montreal is #1 for #2. It's November 13th, and this is the Ezra Levant Show.
Why should others go to jail when you're the biggest carbon consumer I know?
There's 8,500 customers here, and you won't give them an answer.
You come here once a year with a sign, and you feel morally superior.
The only thing I have to say to the government about why I publish it is because it's my bloody right to do so.
Welcome to the show. They said that if I voted Conservative in the last election, the environment would be trashed. And they were right. Not a month after the election, in the city of Montreal, led by longtime Liberal boss Denis Coderre, has simply dumped 8 billion litres of untreated human sewage into their precious river, with the approval of the new federal Minister of the Environment, Catherine McKenna. 8 billion litres of human waste just poured into their rivers. Do you know how gross that is? I can barely say it without gagging. Global TV had a particularly graphic comparison of how gross Montreal is.
The city of Montreal announced this week that they are planning to go ahead with the plan to dump 8 billion litres of raw sewage into the St. Lawrence River. If that sounds like a lot, it's because it is. It would take the Niagara Falls almost an hour for 8 billion litres to flow over both the U.S. and Canadian side.
I love how peppy that announcer's voice is. Sounds like a commercial for ecotourism. Sure, Niagara Falls has pristine water, but here in Montreal, we got pure sludge. It is so gross, it's made international headlines. The New York Times, the BBC, Russia's RT, Hong Kong's South China Morning Post. 8 billion litres of human waste, $8 billion worth of tourism publicity for Montreal. You can't buy that kind of PR. They said if I voted for Stephen Harper, Canada's reputation in the world would be damaged, and that has come true as well. It's not just the Liberals in Montreal, though. Liberals in literally 100 other Quebec cities and towns dump their sewage right into the rivers, too, untreated. It is so, so gross. So I tried to come up with a nickname for Quebec, for Montreal especially. I mean, Calgary's nickname is Cowtown. New York is the Big Apple. So what should Montreal's name be? I tried to come up with something that wasn't completely profane, maybe something with an exotic French twist. Montreal is sometimes called Ville de Marie. Maybe Ville de Merde. I think Merde Real is too obvious. How about Montfical? Am I picking on Montreal? You bet I am. It's the most sanctimonious city in Canada when it comes to the environment and how morally superior they are to, say, Alberta and Alberta's dirty oil sands. Well, that's the thing about the oil sands. They take the dirt out of it. What's left is just oil. It's not dirty. Dirt is dirty. But Montreal's, they refuse to have their precious lands and waters polluted by a state-of-the-art, high-tech oil sands pipeline. I mean, what if a liter of oil would accidentally spill into the 8 billion litres of human waste that the mayor of Montreal deliberately released into their river? We wouldn't want any oil amongst the crap and toilet paper and dirty needles and old boots floating down their precious river. I mean, water is life, people. What would the river keepers say? Just a few days ago, I mentioned to you that Quebec's environmental extremists, including Quebec's Liberal Premier, harangued an Alberta oil pipeline company called TransCanada so much that TransCanada abandoned their plans to build an oil tanker port terminal in Cacouna in the St. Lawrence River. The eco-extremists said they cared so much about beluga whales in the river. It was pristine, sacred really, like a temple. It couldn't be defiled by oil tanker ships. One might leak by accident one day. So the company said, all right, fine. We won't build it. You really, really love your belugas. They're so cute. Yeah, they're cute, all right. I just hope they can swim in a river of sludge that's coming their way. Anyway, so I went online and I said, hey, Canada, let's come up with a new nickname for Montreal and let's try not to use swears. I know it's tough. So hundreds of Canadians started chiming in, some more rudely than others. Here's a non-profane one. New slogan for Montreal. You may think Toronto is #1, but we're definitely the #2 capital of the world. So that's funny. Here's another suggestion for a tourism mascot. That is so gross. And it being the internet, so many people just came up with hilarious and gross pictures, like this one for the poor belugas. Oh my God. Or this one for real change. That was the Liberal slogan. Or this one, they called Trudeau Turdo, and they called his Montreal riding of Papineau, well, you know, Poupino. But look, why shouldn't Trudeau own this? It's his Liberal Party that made the decision. Liberals run the federal government, the provincial government in Quebec, and the Montreal municipal government. This is on their hands, so to speak. Imagine if the rivers froze up early while the brown wave was still making its way to the ocean. Oh my God. These are the folks who are lecturing Alberta? Hey, Montreal, this is what Alberta really looks like. The province you lecture about the environment. And then the funniest thing happened. CTV Montreal, the TV station, started tweeting back at me and my friends online, trying to rebut the criticism of Browntown. But they didn't say, hey guys, don't paint us all with the same brown brush. They actually defended the crap fountain. I'm not even kidding. Here, look, in response to my campaign to come up with a new nickname, CTV wrote, Ezra, in case you missed it, Montreal is building a $100 million wastewater treatment plant. Yeah, congratulations, CTV, because it's 2015. Do you want a prize for building a sewer system or something? Hey, maybe you could actually ask TransCanada for some state-of-the-art pipeline technology. Maybe they could build you a sewer pipe instead of you just dumping your crap into the river. Stop being so anti-pipeline because it's 2015. But CTV kept at it. They really got into it. They really started to show civic pride in their brown river. They were owning it. And this fella wrote, they wrote back to this fella, Gaspé Report. They said, nobody likes dumping sewage, but everyone does it anyway. Yeah, no, not everyone poops in the river, but you hold on to that, CTV. You hold on to that tight. Not literally, I mean. Hold on to the excuse. Well, here's another one. Chicago does it too, said CTV. Or this one, Toronto did it once by accident, and anyways, quote, everyone does it. Yeah, no, CTV, not everyone craps in the river. And even if everyone did, that's not exactly an excuse, especially from a TV network like CTV that is so exquisitely politically correct on the environment when they're condemning Alberta's oil sands. Fort McMurray, the city that CTV loves to condemn, has a state-of-the-art water treatment plant, and they keep expanding it and improving it and upgrading it. But hey, it's true about Quebec Liberals. They really think their own poop doesn't stink. Stay with us for more after these words.
Looking for the perfect gift? Did you know the Rebel.media has a store? Make a statement with a t-shirt. Have your morning coffee in a Fearless Travel coffee mug. There's even an Ezra Levant bobblehead. It's a one-stop shop for the perfect gift. And don't forget to pick up something for yourself. Go to the rebel.media/store to find out more.
Welcome back to the program. It's not often that we have royalty, let alone a beauty pageant winner on the show, but I am with Anastasia Lin, the Miss World Canada. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for inviting me.
Well, you're welcome, and we have you on because you have one toe in politics, not by your own choosing. You're trying to get a visa to go to the Miss World competition next month in China, but the Chinese government is refusing you a visa, even though you're Chinese by birth. Tell me what happened.
So basically, all of us, all the contestants, needs an invitation letter from China in order to apply for a visa. So far, I am the only person I know of have not received this invitation letter from the Chinese government, and we're about 7 days away from the cutoff line for the visa application.
Now, you would think that China would be very proud to have a Chinese Canadian come back to the world pageant in China, but obviously there's a political wrinkle here. Tell me what happened when you won the Miss World Canada Championship. You got a text message from your father in China, am I right?
Yes, that's right. So in the past, I have been participating in film and TV works that are portraying the human rights issue that are in China. There's not a lot of actors that have the guts to do it. So I thought I have the monopoly of these kind of roles for a while. But at that time, I really didn't think there's any consequences in doing these films.
So these were pro-democracy civil rights commentary films, is that right?
They portray the victims under the communist regime, especially those suffered religious persecution.
Is this with our friends at NTD TV, or where were these programs? We have friends at New Tang Dynasty TV and Epoch Times who shine a light of scrutiny. Were you doing these films with them or somewhere else?
Some are with NTD TV, but it's not really. Some are with New Realm Studio, and some are with. I went to Sweden to do one of those, and Vancouver.
Would you call yourself an actress or a spokesperson?
Actress, yeah, for sure.
So, but obviously someone had been tracking you if there was a problem, right? I mean, so tell me how it went. So you were an actress who did these parts about freedom and democracy in China. You won the Miss World Canada pageant, and then you got a text message. What did the text message from your dad say?
It says that if you don't stop these human rights and political work right away, we will have to go our separate ways. I was like, what? And he said, the security force approached me, and if you don't stop, our family would receive consequences.
So you're here with your mom. Your dad's in China, and he, now, do you think he was saying this under duress? Like, do you think they were forcing him to say this, or do you think he was just so scared he said, please stop because I'm in danger?
Well, he said that the security force approached him. Mm-hmm. I don't think that's a vague threat.
No, of course not.
Yeah.
So have you been in touch with your dad lately?
Yes, lately. At the beginning, he was very nervous. For a few months, we didn't really speak. But afterward, he relaxed a little bit. He was really cheerful. He thought it was a great thing I'm going back to China. And he wanted to organize a cheerleading team for me. And in November 2nd, I received a text message from him saying, it's better if you don't come back.
Really?
Yeah, it's better if you don't enter than coming here, because there might be endless trouble. And it's quite shocking.
Now, have you received any support from the Canadian government? I mean, obviously, countries are sovereign nations. They have a ultimate sovereign right to keep out whoever they like. But if China is starting to block Canadians, so you're Canadian citizen, I take it. If China is blocking Canadian citizens, especially of Chinese origin, who simply speak out for civil rights, that is a bad trajectory. Have you received any support from a new member of parliament, from the Department of Foreign Affairs? Has any Canadian official of any sort come to your aid?
Back in May and June, when my father's news broke out, the Canadian government wrote a statement supporting me, commending my efforts to raise awareness about this issue and also express concern about my family's situation in China. But right now, my visa is getting delayed, and I have not heard any supportive comments from the government directly. And they have said that they can't comment on a foreign visa issue. But this is not a foreign visa issue. It's not a matter of foreign sovereignty. I am Canadian speaking within my own border. I spoke my rights. I spoke my mind within Canadian border. And
have you thought of reaching out to Ashley Collingbull? You know who I'm talking about? She was that Mrs. World.
Universe.
Mrs. Universe, that's right. Thank you. I get confused. And she was very political. She was campaigning against Stephen Harper in the last election, but she seems very political. Do you think she might use her media platform to help bust open the doors to China for you?
I have not reached out to her, but that would be great.
I think you should give it a try. I mean, she is no friend of conservatives, but I think she puts herself forward as a friend of civil rights and democracy. I think you should give her a call.
Yeah, and also conservative, liberal, I don't think this is a partisan issue.
No, it's not at all.
We used to have a prime minister that stood up for our right and said, I am a Canadian, free to speak without fear.
Right, that was Wilfrid Laurier, I think. Or
Diefenbaker. That's right, and that's actually the quote I used in my 2013 pageant.
Oh, really?
I uphold this value of freedom for myself and all mankind. And I am doing exactly that. And I think I shouldn't be left alone to defend what is at the core value of our country by myself.
Well, I'm impressed with what you're saying. I'm impressed that you would refer to freedom in a pageant. I think you truly have Canadian values, and it doesn't surprise me that the world's largest dictatorship would want to keep you out, especially if you could inspire other Chinese people to embrace freedom. How do you think this is going to end? You say you only have 7 days left to get the visa. What will happen if Canada is not represented there?
I don't know. The worst possible scenario is that when people watch this and it ends badly, it might discourage them from speaking up in the future.
Yeah.
In the long term, it can be extremely unhealthy. People won't be able to speak up anymore. And that's why I'm continuing on this path. It's not even about the beauty pageant anymore. It's just a matter of principle.
Well, that's outstanding. I'm glad to meet you. I wish you good luck. I'm worried because I don't know if Canada has great champions for democracy and human rights and foreign affairs these days. I hope so. And I hope that you'll be able to go to China. But if not, well, Canada's lucky to have a democracy activist like you around. Nice to meet you, Anastasia.
Thank you.
Stick around. There's so much more after the break.
We've heard you loud and clear. You can't get enough Canadian conservative news and opinion. Why not check out our blog? It's all your favorite conservative bloggers together on a page called The Megaphone. Go to therebel.media/themegaphone or click on the megaphone menu from our main page to check it out.
What's the difference between a refugee and a migrant? Well, I think that sometimes the difference can be the difference between a lamb and a wolf. Here at the Rebel.media, we have raised money for a man who goes in to protect the lambs from the wolves. My friend Majed Shafi, who joins us again here today. Great to see you, my friend.
It's a pleasure.
Welcome back. Tell us a little bit, for those who missed our last conversation, about your organization, One Free World International. Who are you? What do you do? And who do you try and save, and how?
Well, basically, One Free World International is a human rights organization. We've been traveling, we have branches in 28 different countries. We help the persecuted people of faith, people that they are facing persecution because of their religious belief. And just in the last 2-3 years, we've been working a lot in Iraq and Syria area. We've been bringing medications. We've been to the hospitals there, field hospitals. We've been also doing rescue mission to rescue the Yazidi girls and the Christian girls from ISIS territory.
Now, let me slow you down. Yazidi, I'm familiar with that term. I think some of our viewers are, but for those who don't know what Yazidis are, that's an ethnic group in
Iraq.
In Iraq.
In Iraq, and they are minority.
And they're persecuted by the Islamic State terrorists.
They are not just persecuted, they kill them, they take their women as sex slaves. One of the girls that we rescued was 9 years old that used to be raped by ISIS 20 times a day. And this is just the reality and the truth on the ground. With these people is not the same refugees or migrants that you can see them running to Europe. Not all of them anyway. The problem that we're facing right now, and this is very important that the people understand. I used to be a refugee. I'm a refugee. I came here to this country as a refugee. So I have nothing against refugees. I think this country was based on receiving refugees. But which kind of refugees? Right. You cannot bring 25,000 refugees in 7 or 6 weeks with ensuring that they are proper secure.
Yeah.
And there is security. You
How
have
do
to have the balance.
How do you even check? You couldn't even interview them all.
CSIS cannot do it in 7, 8. The problem that they will bring them here and then they will process them here. But by the Canadian Constitution, once they are here, you cannot take them back. This is number one. Number two, the main problem that we have to understand is not only about helping the refugees here. Well, you took 25. Tomorrow you will have 30 million, 2 millions. You have to solve the problem from the source. Right. So in the time that our Prime Minister Trudeau is pulling out of the dealing with ISIS, the source of the problem, and receiving refugees here, well, who you are helping? Because there will be more refugees if you didn't deal with ISIS directly.
I have compared ISIS to the Nazis, and people say, oh, that's outrageous. Well, no, they're as brutal as the Nazis. They use atrocious, anti-human, degrading murders and rapes like the Nazis. They just maybe don't have the have the ability to do en masse what Hitler did yet, but they would if they could.
And I think they did. Like, 7,000 Yazidi girls being kidnapped as a sex slaves and being raped daily. I think they are like Nazis.
It is on a scale. I mean, they really do have a state. It's called the Islamic State. They really do. I mean, it's not a state recognized by any other country, but they control it. They police it. They extract taxes from it, don't they?
Absolutely. And the truth and the reality, beside helping the refugees here and receiving them the proper refugees, what I call them the minority, the persecuted minority, that's the people that we have to have in the most vulnerable
the lambs,
minority.
Not the wolves.
Absolutely. But beside that, we have to help them on the ground there. And here is a question that everybody needs to answer. Why none of these refugees or migrants going to Saudi Arabia or Qatar or Kuwait or Egypt
OPEC Gulf,
or Morocco,
those rich Gulf states.
Why they're not taking their own people?
And those are the countries that sponsor terrorism.
Absolutely.
Qatar in particular. Oh, Majed, I'm so pleased that you're doing what you're doing. And we chipped in a little bit of money to your organization before, a few months ago.
That's true.
And then when the Syrian migrants made it to the front page, and I said some of the same things you're saying, but we've got to vet them. They can't just be economic migrants or worse, terrorists. Mm-hmm. They've got to be real refugees. People said, oh, you don't care about real refugees. And I said, yes, I do. And to prove it, we set up a little website called refugeechallenge.com.
Yes.
And why did I call it that? Because all these journalists were saying, oh, Ezra, you're just racist. Yeah. I said, you know what? Let me put some money towards it. And I challenge you, all these people who say they care, prove it. Put in $10 of your own. Put in $100 of your own. And I set up a $5,000 goal. Well, guess what? Guess what, Majed? Our campaign is over. We have received $9,065.
Wow.
Almost twice as much as we set out to do.
Absolutely.
So I have a check here made up to the One Free World International.
Thank you so much. That's amazing.
Well, thank you. I mean, I'll take some of your thanks because a little bit of the dough is from me, but most of it is from our viewers. There were $10 contributions, there were $300 contributions, and we give this to you because we know that you will spend it more wisely and more effectively than most government organizations, and you will get it to the lambs, not the wolves. Tell me a little bit what you're going to do with that.
Well, right now we have a mission in Iraq and in Syria beside the rescue mission, but we also have in the holiday season that we give them medication, proper medication, hospital field, feed them and so on, but helping the refugees in the ground, not just to wait until they come knocking on the door, but helping them on the ground, saving their lives. And this is the most important thing. And without security, you are sending aid to adept people. Yeah. You have to have security as well.
And by that you mean the Canadian CFA teams attacking the Islamic State. Is that what you mean?
Absolutely.
Well, listen, you're planning another trip to the region, is that right?
That's correct, by sometime in December.
Now, I know that for security reasons, you cannot talk about this in advance. But when you are back, will you come back on the program and give our viewers an update of what you did?
Absolutely, and we give them the footage and we show them where their money is spent.
I'm very grateful to you. I trust you. I know that you yourself have been through a terrible ordeal as a refugee, and to see you now help others and be wise enough to differentiate between either just economic migrants or security threats and the true victims is very inspiring to me. So I want to thank you, Majed, on behalf of all our viewers. This is a token of our affection and our support for your cause. I look forward to seeing you when you're back after Syria and Iraq. Good luck, my friend, and travel safely.
Thank you.
What a guy. Come right back after these quick words, my friends.
So open-minded that the brains have fallen out.
What's the point that you're making?
The point that I'm making is that if you're going to propose a massive overhaul to the way the economy is developed in terms of carbon tax, cap and trade, other forms like that, it helps to have some science that is in fact settled.
Time for viewer feedback. Sandra and Bob Barber saying, Ezra, congratulations on your show. It is so refreshing to finally hear the truth. It has also been fun to watch you grow from an infant and you are now approaching puberty. Not without the bumps, but hey, how else will you learn? Your team does a great job and we love all of you. Keep up the fantastic work. You may be assured that we are watching and learning too. All that talk about being an infant in puberty has brought back some mixed memories for me, Sandra. I'm just kidding. It's an analogy we use ourselves. I mean, we were conceived 9 months ago exactly. In fact, the Sun News Network shut down on February 13th, and it is November 13th. That's 9 months, and our little baby, our new TV style of this flowing show, it's alive and kicking. We have a lot more growing up to do, but hey, no catastrophes so far. And most importantly, we're putting our resources into the content. As much news and opinion and activism as we can squeeze out of every dollar we have. Sometimes you can see that we're low budget, sometimes we hide it well. But that's life when you don't have $1 billion from the government every year like the CBC gets. Steve McQueen writes, must say, better than Sun News Network, no CRTC constraints, total fun to watch, return Canada to the people instead of a bunch of small group of French dialect trust babies and their friends promoted and supported by the media party. I think I know exactly what you're talking about, Steve. I do feel freer now than at Sun News. I mean, I was for sure the freest journalist in Canada at Sun News. I really mean it. I mean, take the Danish cartoons of Mohammed or the Charlie Hebdo cartoons, for example. Have you ever seen those in the Toronto Star or on the CBC? But we showed those all the time on Sun News. But we still had to look over our shoulders occasionally. And there were so many nuisance complaints to the Broadcast Standards Council and to the CRTC. I don't have to even give those bureaucrats a time of day now because we're on the internet. It's like we're an Uber and they're all in old cab companies. Yeah, I'll never go back to that. I will tell you, though, I do have a nagging fear. It's way in the back of my mind, but it's there. That the authoritarian elements of the left-wing liberals will try to regulate the internet to snuff out voices like ours. I don't see that as an imminent threat. Believe me, I'll let you know if it does come, but I am worried about it. Here's Ken Waters, who says, Ezra, I would be willing to pay for your show if it was on TV, but not on the internet. TV is much more convenient for me. When Pick and Pay is available in March, I hope your show will be available on offer. A 1-hour Rebel broadcast repeated every hour would be an improvement over CTV's and CBC's national news channels, which repeat the same news every 15 minutes. Why not go for both TV and the internet? Hi, Ken. That's an interesting idea. But in fact, I think the line between TV and the internet is getting blurrier all the time. I mean, is Netflix internet or TV? What if you hook it up to your big TV screen through something like Apple TV or even some of those game systems like Sony PlayStation? Take HBO. It's on demand, it's online, it's on TV. I think that's sort of where we're going, just as long as we don't have to touch that swamp called the CRTC. I don't want to deal with the cable companies. I don't want to deal with the CRTC. We will live online. But I think as the months and years go by, it will be easier and easier to watch us on your TV set without going through cable TV. I predict you will quit your cable company before you quit us. That's just a prediction. John says, hey, Ezra, it would be great to see you interview some liberals on specific issues if you can find any brave enough to come on the show. Hey, John, good point. I always try to get liberals on the show. They rarely agree to come on. Now, on election night, we had the great Dan McTague on. He's a former member of Parliament. I used to know Kent Hare way back in Alberta. He came on my Sun News show. Now, he's a minister from Calgary now, Minister of Veterans Affairs. Maybe he'd come on the show. I went to law school with him, actually. We were in the same class. I think you'd agree that when I finally get a liberal on my show once in a blue moon, I'm so excited and grateful that I actually turn into a little puppy dog and become too gentle because I want them to come back on. I'm actually the easiest interviewer in the world for a liberal or a New Democrat who even comes on the show. That's a true confession. Anyways, it's been a busy week. We launched our TV-style program, the Ezra Levant Show. That's me. I've had a hoot. Congratulations to our team that's worked so hard. You know, it feels like a big team to me because there's so many people I rely on. But compared to the Sun News Network or, of course, the CBC, we are a tiny little team, so kudos to them. And just because this week is over doesn't mean we're going to stop giving you great stuff. All week, every day of the week, we have little video snacks, little written news bites that go up on the website. And of course, you can watch any of the shows from the past week on demand on the website. I want to tell you, next week we've got Michelle Rempel coming on the show. I'm excited about that. She's a young Conservative MP from Calgary who is, I think, interested in running for the Conservative leadership. I hope to interview all candidates for the Conservative leadership and hear what they have to say and bring the news to you to help inform your decision. I think it is inappropriate for the CBC or the Toronto Star and the Globe and Mail, who hate the Conservatives, to dare to host anything or to try and be a hub of conversation for the Conservative leadership race. I mean, they clearly hate the Conservatives. Why should they be the central hub for information? We're also going to talk to Garnet Genuis, another young Conservative MP, first-timer from Alberta, who wrote an interesting plan for what he thinks the Conservatives need to do and think to rebuild. That'll be interesting. Obviously, tons of guests, tons of video commentary. Can I invite you to contact me? It's on the screen right there. Just email me, Ezra@therebel.media. I will do my best to read all the emails. I am a little bit behind, so please accept my apologies if I don't write back individually. You can Facebook us. Oh boy, our Facebook page is super fun, and it's a great way to share things because you can share any of our posts to your own personal friends. Just go to facebook.com, join the Rebel, or just type in The Rebel in your search bar. And finally, if you are on Twitter, please follow me at Ezra Levant, or The Rebel TV is our Twitter handle. That's it for me on this busy week, this Remembrance Day week. We had some interesting shows. Hopefully it's the beginning of a lot more to come. I'm Ezra Levant saying, have a great weekend. Bye-bye.